let's talk a bit about the flavors of design. What the hell are flavors of design? Well, design isn't only one thing, and if you're like me, you really love some of them and really dislike some other parts, so that's why flavors. First of all, I'm Milena. I'm a product designer at 123 Forum Builder, and I organize the design club meetup. And I will stutter because I'm really excited to be here, because my goal is that our meetup will be as successful as tim.js, so I'm really happy to be here.
It will be.
Hopefully. Okay, a bit of background about myself. I have an extremely unconventional background. I'm totally unrelated to design. I will not go into detail, but we can talk about it later if you want. I started working in IT about 2 years ago. I started working as a user researcher in an outsourcing company, small outsourcing company, really focused on design thinking. Then I moved on to become a UX designer in the same company, and moving on to 123 Forum Builder as a UX designer, and finally evolved as a product designer. What the hell is the difference? I will let you know. The interesting part is that I haven't been in IT for long, but I had the opportunity to work in various environments and various team setups. So I got a chance to learn and discover a few things. And what I did discover is that designers and developers don't always see eye to eye. And this is what I would like to talk to you about today. So my objective is to help you understand designers a bit better and hopefully improve the designer-developer collaboration. Before that, how many of you are developers? Raise your hand. Okay. I will be nice, I promise. Designers? Yay. Okay, great. Other roles? No? That's it? Okay, I will be nice, I promise. Okay, on the agenda for today, we will talk about the collaboration spectrum. We will discuss a few misconceptions about design. We will go really quick over the designer mindset, our process, and we will discuss a couple of roles. And at the end, I would like to give you a few suggestions how I think you could bridge the collaboration gap. So, before we start, how well do you collaborate with designers on a regular basis?
Depends on the designer.
Okay. Is it more around here, usually? Maybe. Okay. So from my experience, I usually experienced this area. So team collaboration can vary heavily, but teams can struggle to collaborate. And this is usually when there is a lot of resistance to change, a lot of resistance to new ideas, and the mindset of what the hell do you want from me, just let me focus on my own things. There are a lot of conflicts, and there's a lot of criticism between the team members, and especially if the two roles are completely different. And this is important because it has an impact on the overall outcome of the project. So usually teams that are struggling are disorganized, and there's a lot of confusion, and everyone is working in different directions, to put it like that. Next, on the collaboration matrix, there are teams that are avoiding to collaborate. They focus on keeping the distance. They could collaborate, but they really choose not to. There is some gossip between members. They prefer to observe and give hints instead of useful feedback. So, and they don't make sure that the other person understood what they meant with their hints, and they follow through. What happens here? The outcome is slightly better, but it can only be as good as the individual effort. Where I would like to see things going, and I hope to work soon, is in a team environment where there is a better collaboration between designer and developer, where we trust each other, give each other feedback, and there is a synergy between us. So we can have some coordinated or collective impact on the product and the outcome of our work. Why do we care? Because maybe not all of us, but most of us take pride in our work. And for example, me, I'm a perfectionist, I'm a bit OCD. Maybe most designers are like this. And I really want to deliver a good work at the end of the day. Okay, so why does collaboration fail? Usually these are the main three culprits. The roles, responsibilities, and processes are unclear. We think that we know what the other person is doing, but that might not be the case. We all focus on speed and individual contribution. We want to deliver our tasks and not fall behind. So we don't have time to invest in collaboration. There is also a lack of communication and a lack of knowledge transfer between us. So what can you do to improve this? This is bilateral. I'm not saying that it's only on you, developers, to help with this collaboration, but since I'm amongst a lot of developers, I'm gonna be courageous enough to make some suggestions. You can give me some suggestions back at the end if you want. So you can start by knowing your designers. And you can start doing this by discovering the common misconceptions for what they are. And I listed a few here, which I'm sure you heard about. Maybe some of you think this is ridiculous, and people nowadays can't possibly think like that. But to my experience, sadly they do. Designers are not all artists, and we do not only care or focus on aesthetics and trends, sorry to say. And yeah, we're not all really good at drawing either. Empathy and user focus isn't only hippie bullshit. We don't want to smoke pot together and hold hands and dance around the trees. We will see how empathy and user focus can help us. Design is not a tool, so knowing Photoshop or Sketch or Figma doesn't mean that's it. That's where design starts and ends. And yes, it's an iterative process like your process as well. So if we need to go back on our designs, it doesn't mean that we didn't do a good job at the beginning. It doesn't mean that they were poor. It means that we found out a better way of delivering a solution and we're trying to improve it. Granular tasks don't work well with us. We like to have an overview to see the full picture before being able to come up with a solution. And this is mostly not on you, but on POs and PMs that maybe don't always understand that we can't work with bits of information. And yeah, collaboration should be resumed to more than just handoffs. We shouldn't only collaborate when we deliver the design for you to implement. But what is design? Well, design in all its forms is about problem solving. Even the most basic visual project, it still serves a purpose and has a functionality. And in the end, it solves a problem. Our process is creative, iterative, and collaborative. And this we share amongst different design roles. Our process looks more or less something like this. And we all have this in common, even if our job titles are completely different, even if we focus more on certain aspects. This is something that is also common with design thinking. It's also similar. So what we do is we start projects by discovering more about the problem space. Like I said, we like to have an overview and to discover if the desired feature is actually what the user needs. So we can't always take the requirements that reach us as a gold standard. We need to, after we discover more about our users and the problem space, we usually do this with user research and by attempting to be empathetic with our user. what does that mean? We'll try to think from their perspective and see why they have where they have a problem and understand the context. Then we can define the problem space and discover an opportunity for design. We can ideate and try to come up with various solutions, which we will filter down and design a couple of them, test them, and hand them over to you for delivery. And yes, when we find out that during testing that they suck, we might go back to define, and on it goes. Design is never-ending process like development. So we saw that we all focus on problem solving, that our process is alike, but how are we different? Well, we focus on different things depending on our roles, and our tools and skills need to adapt to solve those problems. If we were to simplify most design roles and split them into categories based on the focus that they have, we can see that they fall under these three main categories. So there are designers who focus on improving processes. These are they usually have titles like strategic designer, business process manager, or organization designer, service designer. There are designers who focus on solving user needs, and here is where I'm comfortable at. UX, UI, and product design. And there are designers who mainly focus on facilitating communication and helping users be informed. And these are web designers, brand designers, and visual designers. And here is where I'm least comfortable at or would like to ever get into if I have a chance. Okay, so I will go a bit more into detail into UX, UI design and product design because these are the roles that I had, and it's actually what I like and would like to be better at. How are they different? They are in many ways very similar, but one evolves from the other, to put it like that. So UX, UI design is focused on user needs and on various aspects of delivering for those needs, solving those needs. So what UX UI designers focus on is mainly finding out what is desirable for users, but they also need to balance what is technically feasible and viable from a business perspective. And here is where you can help a lot. Product design is very similar, but it's more than that. It focuses not just on user needs, but the entire product cycle. It's not enough for us to deliver a good solution for our users, but this solution needs to be sold. It needs to exist on the market, and it needs to be scalable, and hopefully better than the competition, so we have a chance. And product design focuses on that as well. So it also has a big emphasis on product strategy. Since we don't only care about aesthetics and making things look pretty, what we do care about is delivering on user goals, and we do that by finding out about our users. As you see, even only in the UX aspects of design, there are a lot of things that we need to consider on a day-to-day basis. We need to make sure that our solution is findable. We need to make sure that everyone can use it. We need to, regardless of disabilities. We need to make sure that it's actually usable and it doesn't just sound good on paper, but that users can actually interact with it. We need to make sure that this is what users actually need and it fits their context. We need to convince them to use it and not go to the competition, and we can do this best by proving that it's useful. So there is a lot of overlap between the various designer roles, and they are very subjective. Based on the company that you will work in, and the background of the designer, you will see that one UX designer is not like the other one, and the things that the company requires from a UX designer is completely different in one case and in the other one as well. So we usually need to balance multiple skills, and there is an overlap between them. Just as an example, on a day-to-day basis, when we work on projects, we need to take into account all of these things. Even if I don't particularly enjoy visual design, or UI design is not my strong suit, I'm more comfortable in UX and I would like to do more user research, for example, I need to take into account all of these. So I need to start with user needs, I need to focus on functionality and usefulness, I need to figure out how to split information in a logical way and not overwhelm users, but still make sure that they find what they need when they need it. I need to discover UI patterns and still be up to date with what's out there and what users expect and what they are used to. Content and terminology, both for inside the company, is important. We need to have a common language, so we know we can understand each other, but it's also important for users. Microcopy and microcontent should also be here, but it's not, and in the end visual design. Plus there are a lot more layers. You could add motion, animation, all sorts of interesting things. So yeah, like we saw, design is complex, and you can help us a lot and make our lives easier, and in the end we will help you. And you can do this. How? Well, first of all, you need to be curious enough to find out what we're doing as a designer. So I recommend that you talk to the designer that you're working with and find out what they are good at, what motivates them, and maybe find out where they are least comfortable at, and maybe you can help them out in that area. For this, you need to be empathetic, and you need to understand that in the end we have the same goal as you. We want to deliver good products for our users. It's just the way we approach problems and the way we talk about them, it's the only difference. And there needs to be teamwork. So you can try to think like a designer. And for this, I recommend that you try to find out who the target user is, find out who will use the solution that you are working so hard to build. Why should you do this? To make sure that it fits their needs and their context. You should try to think about user goals instead of features. I know it's developers like to, and POs and PMs and business people like to talk a lot about features and cool features, but users don't really care about features. They just want to get their to reach their goal. So try to switch your perspective a bit. What you can do next is break down the goals into tasks and think about how you could organize information in that way. So what does the user need to do at every step of the way to reach his or her goal? And then you can try to think about the tasks in a logical manner, and to see where they need what information, and maybe not overwhelm them with lots of choices. And I know that you guys like to be really helpful and flexible and allow users to do anything. So let's just give options to them so they can customize everything the way they want to. That's not always good. And we usually have conflicts around this with developers. What else you could do is be proactive and get involved early on in the design process. This is a two-way street, so be open to collaboration if the occasion arises. I know that time is precious and you hate meetings as much as we do, but try at least to participate in the meetings where basic functionality is being discussed. So when designers discuss how the feature is gonna work, it's really great if you can be there and if you can help them figure things out and speak up about technical constraints early on. What else you could do is review specs and design thoroughly. What I usually hear from developers is that they don't like to read and they don't care that I wrote everything in Confluence and Jira and in Zeppelin and it's written in at least 3 places, but they still want to ask me everything, which is okay, but you can try to read a bit, maybe. What would be nice is to get feedback from you guys on our designs, and this would really help us see a different perspective. You can, if you still have the energy to do more, you can go the extra mile and invite designers for informal reviews. So when we ask you guys to see the implemented feature, we don't just want to make sure that we don't want to point fingers and say, oh my God, you did such a terrible job implementing my beautiful design. No, we usually want to figure out if what we delivered to you was clearly understood and know how to improve it for the next time. We're also not trying to steal the QA's job by doing this. We will focus on different aspects than they would. So I would suggest trying to have some sort of peer programming, but with designers, and see how that goes. You can help designers understand more about what you need by shedding light on your workflow and let them know when you need what type of information. So if they don't have time to deliver the whole design at first, maybe they can give you a basic structure, the basic information that you need to help you start working on something. And it's also easier for them to understand the limitations of the platforms or the framework that you're working on, and to understand the costs of what they are asking you to do. So it's really important for you to communicate this clearly. It's really nice if you get a chance to see how users interact with what you've built. It usually seems very clear and intuitive to us and also to you, but when you actually see users get frustrated not knowing what to do, it usually is a moment of truth where you can discover areas that you can improve. You can try to understand where design changes are coming from and try to discover if this is just on a whim or is there an actual reason behind them. There usually is. And please don't assume that something is just cosmetic or minor or that it's okay, it's good enough like this. Designers are just trying to be fancy. So that's it. Please don't kill me. Now you can give me feedback and let me and the rest of the designers know how we can make your lives easier and how we can help you. And if you have any questions, please go ahead.